Alien Syndrome, kind of gross.
Alien Syndrome for the Sega Master System was a port of the arcade game, which was far superior to the Sega Master System version. But the Master System version, it wasn't bad.
Actually, the NES version was superior, believe it or not. It was closer to that.
You could choose between two characters. You had Ricky and Mary, and the goal of the game was to rescue your comrades from aliens.
Of course, you can get different special weapons.
Flamethrower.
Among them, the most popular and famous being the flamethrower, because how else do you kill, well, enemies from outer space?
At the end of every level, there was like a giant alien boss, and some of that stuff looks really crazy.
Kind of disgusting backdrop. You know, there's a lot of goopy, gory kind of stuff.
And I felt like I was Sigourney Weaver going around the Nostromo killing aliens. It was awesome.
That's a pretty good name for the game. It's a syndrome. It needs to be defeated with lots of pus apparently involved.
Rad Racer. So rad. So bad.
You're in a Ferrari, and you're racing 8 different courses of madcap environmental fun.
Rad Racer was a pretty rad game, but it was also a pretty racer game, hence the name Rad Racer. Wink.
You're not always racing in a Ferrari.
Oh no!
No, you can race in an F1 car if you want to.
If you want to be a nerd, because no one ever chose the F1 car.
Not many people did.
Not many people did.
Rad Racer was basically Outrun on the NES. You had to drive through checkpoints before time ran out and just keep driving.
Once you get to like the 3rd, 4th levels, the cars will actively try to drive into you when they're ahead of you. They will just kind of try to fake you out and then come after you. So you really have to be on your guard here. It's a really tough game.
The music was done by Nobuo Uematsu, who was famous for later creating the music for Final Fantasy.
In the race, there's 3 different songs you can play. I used to hate those. I always hit it by accident when I'm turning and switch the song to another one. Like, damn it!
Basically, you're just kind of driving down the road and trying to avoid enemies. It's not unlike a lot of other racing games at the time, except this one had 3D.
It brought 3D to the NES with red and blue 3D.
You press the select button at any time, the game becomes 3D. You put on your red and blue glasses backwards because Nintendo somehow got it backwards, and the game becomes 3D. Well, actually not really. It really kind of sucked.
Yeah.
It's heavily featured in The Wizard, where you use the power glove to control the thing.
I love the Power Glove. It's so bad. But he should have said Rad, because he was playing Rad Racer. That's what he should have said.
LJN had a breakout year.
Oh, great. I've been looking forward to LJN.
What does that stand for? LJN. Let's just not?
1987 was the first year that LJN started publishing games on the NES. Now, LJN gets a bad rap for good reason for a lot of their games that, you know, aren't the best sort of quality that are published. But in 87, they had 3 that stood out. They had Karate Kid, Jaws, and Gotcha.
LJN was actually a toy company that was associated, had a parent company of MCA, which was this big media conglomerate in terms of movies and music, etc., etc. And they were definitely great at securing the rights to these movies, like Jaws, like The Karate Kid, like Back to the Future, etc.
First we had Gotcha, which made use of the NES Zapper, which was always a good thing.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
No, I actually liked that game.
Yeah.
Gotcha was cool because it's basically like a capture the flag game.
Right.
Using the zapper, but you also control your movement left to right in first person using the control pad.
And LJN also had Jaws.
The point of the game is to defeat Jaws by collecting shells, leveling up, and ultimately just stabbing him with your boat.
You build up your quantity of shells to trade in for more powerful spears, and along the way you fight Jaws every now and then. The iconic movie Jaws.
Karate Kid. Oh, Karate Kid was hard.
It's based upon the first 2 Karate Kid movies. And Karate Kid was a game that I loved for the first 5 minutes because you're playing the tournament at the end of the first movie. After that, when you're playing part 2 of the movie, it stinks.
What's interesting is that the reason LJN was even created was to bypass the whole, you can only make a certain amount of games for Nintendo at a time. So LJN is actually a subsidiary of Acclaim.
LJN's associated with Acclaim. Everyone assumes that they were all made by horrible people, but when you look, some of the most hated LJN games are made by companies such as Rare or Atlas. You know, and these are companies that are just cutting their teeth.
Kid Icarus is an action platformer starring Pit, not Kid Icarus like you'd believe.
Kid Icarus, you are Pit. You're an angel from Angel Land.
The goal of the game is to find 3 sacred treasures to defeat Medusa and rescue Goddess Palutena.
It uses the same engine as Metroid, and you can kind of see that. Most of the stages in Kid Icarus are vertically scrolling.
There are eggplant wizards in the dungeons that can turn you into an eggplant by hitting you with an eggplant, and then you gotta go to the hospital to heal yourself, otherwise you can't use any of your weapons. It's really weird.
When you scare the Reapers, they flip out and they send all these Reaperettes after you, which are fairly easy enough to shoot in their formation, but if they hit you, they take away a ton of life.
There's not a lot of life you can pick up in this game.
But when you do, it's a glass of wine.
Oh.
So early on, Nintendo's teaching kids that 1 glass of red wine a day is great for the system, great for the body.
Hard game, I have beaten it. The ending of Kid Icarus is like, I'm pretty sure, is like a Medusa's face or something, and you have to shoot the Medusa's face.
While the game is great, it has a reputation for being incredibly difficult, and it's rightfully deserved. Almost too much so.
Kid Icarus was the one that kind of fell off the map. Zelda and Metroid kept going, and Mario and everything.
Kid Icarus, not as strong an entry as Metroid, but I can totally appreciate it for what it is.
It's no doubt that Kid Icarus is really hard, and I understand why some people don't like it, but it's a friggin' classic. I love it.
Kid Icarus. Pretty solid. Good fun. I'd play it. Operation Wolf was kind of a different take on the same setting we've seen before in games like Ikari Warriors and Commando. You know, that whole post-Vietnam War, everything's in a jungle and you're saving hostages kind of thing.
It was a cool game. It just had this great feel. The gun, the recoil mechanism in it. That's the most memorable part of the arcade experience with that game.
This, instead of a top-down shooter like those other games, was a first-person shooter where you had kind of a scrolling screen and you had to shoot the bad guys and not shoot hostages because that would be bad.
You had to shoot as many boats, choppers, jeeps, tanks, and soldiers as the game required for you to advance.
You always had to find new ammunition because it was not unlimited.
You could stock up your weapons by shooting barrels and crates and animals, because of course they have those things inside them.
You had a little button on the end of the machine gun, which moved on a swivel mechanism, so you can go around the whole screen, but the little button shot grenades.
And what was cool about Operation Wolf is that it had sort of a narrative to it.
In the jungle stage, you would interrogate the enemy leader to make him reveal the location of the enemy concentration camp.
It had, I guess, not cutscenes, but cut images in between the stages that kind of advanced the story. One of the missions, you had to like blow up the communications, you know, tower of the enemy, and then yeah, like the last stage, I think you had to get into like the airport to the runway, and you had to make sure your hostages weren't shot as they crossed the screen.
Operation Wolf, I think, is one of the better jungle military type games you'll find in this era.
And now the forgotten video games of 1987.
Pat here with the forgotten video games of 1987. 221B Baker Street by Datasoft. Control Sherlock Holmes in this mystery computer title based upon the board game of the same name. Zillion for the Sega Master System, the futuristic action platformer based upon an anime series. Micro League Wrestling, the WWF computer strategy game. What you gonna do, brother? And Spy Hunter 2 by Bally Midway, the follow-up to the arcade smash, which was an utter failure. Those were the forgotten video games of 1987. Just because you don't remember them doesn't mean they weren't fun.